And when we look at the U.S. sending carrier battle group, possibly two, into the Med as I think, as a sign to Lebanon, Hezbollah, Iran to not come in from the north and not turn this thing into a broader conflict. Is that the point, deterrence, or is the point being there to take advantage of the opportunity to go in and hit whatever sites we've been wanting to hit?
Let me be clear. If it wasn't for the hostage situation, the U.S. would have no interest in being anywhere near this. But one of kind of the unofficial agreements that you make with the U.S. government, if you're a citizen, is that no matter where you are, no matter what you've done, no matter your circumstances, no matter your crimes, we will come for you. And as soon as we know where those hostages are, we will go in hard. We will not subcontract that out to a third party. And that's why the carrier is in place. And that's the only reason the carrier is in place. People like to say, oh, this is a deterrent for Hezbollah, but we're not going to get involved in that because it's not the sort of situation that a carrier can fix. If you want to root out Hezbollah, very different circumstances from Hamas. Hamas is several thousand, several tens of thousands, several 100,000, don't know what the number is, among a densely populated open air prison of 3 million people, and going door to door through that to clear it out. Even if we threw the entire US military at that, that would not be enough for that job. So I do not envy what's in front of the Israelis or in front of the Palestinians on that front. There is no way that is going to be anything but hideous. Lebanon actually has terrain. It's mountainous, there are forests, and so it's a more traditional Afghan style operation, if you will, and we want nothing to do with that. We had 20 years of that. Thank you, we're done.
Do you think nuclear supremacy in the Middle East plays into any of this? I saw something, I think it was in the Times of Israel, with Netanyahu suggesting that Saudi Arabia get some sort of Iranian enrichment program going. Do you think there's some sort of tacit agreement that that nuclear power, energy, possibly weapons are involved in the Israel-U.S.-Saudi side of things?
Not in the short term, at least. Probably not in the midterm. The Israelis, I don't think, have a nuclear power system. Yeah, I don't think so. But they do have a couple hundred tactical nukes, which are more than enough for their strategic needs. They might, they're very cagey on this, have a few city flatteners just in case Iran gets too uppity. But that's all designed as a last ditch. This is what we do when The Last of Us is going into the ocean because we've been overrun sort of play. They don't have a strategic doctrine for anything less than that. As for the Saudis have a lot of military stuff on paper, but it's all shrink wrapped and stored in air conditioned warehouses. And they only very, very recently started training on any of it themselves when they came to the conclusion that the US really had no interest in coming to pull them out of the fire if they pick a fight with someone, including Iran. Iran, of course, has a nuclear weapons program, but has not been able to create a device, much less a deliverable weapon. And to be perfectly blunt, it's not clear that they're going to be able to. They probably will be able to get enough fissile material to do it. But Iranian engineers are not world class, and they were not world class by definitions in the 1940s, much less today. So I would think that if the Iranians were ever going to get a weapon, they would have done it already. But if I'm wrong, and they are closer than I think, then I will bet my entire life that the Saudis will go to Pakistan and purchase a few nukes the next day. Saudi technical acumen is significantly below that of Iran's, but they've got a really big checkbook. And there are some people out there who have nukes who, with the right number, would sell. And the Saudis have already set that up. So it can happen very, very quickly should they feel so pressed. But the US will have nothing to do with that. If anything, the US would do a significant amount of things to prevent it from happening, but I don't think we could stop it.
Interesting. Future of Gaza. What do you see, whether it's short term, let's say 2 weeks to a month, and then 5 years out? Has the paradigm changed based on the level of violence against civilians over the last few days?
Well, let's start at what it was before the assaults. This was an open air prison camp. This is an area that has no economic reason to exist. It is a prison camp. And as such, there is no meaningful trade. It's dependent upon the outside world for over 90% of their food and 100% of their energy. Those supplies either come from Israel directly as a kind of a drip feed just to keep the place quiet, or international donations, and that is the entire story. So while I don't obviously do anything but vomit when I see what has happened and what Hamas has done, you have to admit, when the best that you could hope for is to be mayor of a prison camp, that's the height of social and technological achievement in Gaza. You can understand why some people choose some darker paths. They'll never get back to where they were. Israel controls all but one sliver of the border, which is with Egypt, and that's where the tunnels are that allow the Palestinians to smuggle things in. At a minimum, the minimum response that we will see out of Israel is clearing out an area maybe a quarter of a half mile thick and compressing the prison even a little bit more to make sure that none of those tunnels can ever be used again. And these people will be completely at the mercy of whatever the Israeli political system allows. And I don't see another way out of that, because the Egyptians are the only other country in play here. They're on the wrong side of the Sinai to project power here. And even if they could project power, they're not going to do it to free Gaza, because even if the walls went away tomorrow, then it's an open air prison camp with fewer walls. There is not a future here. And now that we've seen very clearly that Hamas cannot not only patrol its own territory to prevent things like this from happening, but actually encourage things like this to happening, there is no administration that can go in there and fix this. So you're looking at a degree of organizational chaos if the Israelis win and do root out Hamas. And if they fail, then you're talking about a state of on again, off again, open warfare with a people that have nowhere to go. The humanitarian scale of what's about to happen is going to be horrific.
Yeah. And future of Israel, when you look, I'm sorry, Iran, when you look at Iran and their connections to Hamas, Hezbollah, what do you see in their future, whether it's short term or long term, and is it dependent on what happens here in the next couple months with Israel and Hamas and Hezbollah?
Well, from our last talk, we talked a lot about China and Russia and how we're going to both outlive both of those countries. We're not going to outlive Iran. Iran's been around for a very long time. It's had good government continuity over most of the 4,000 plus years that Persia's been in existence in some form. And the ruling class isn't one person like it is in China. It's a group of 10,000 mullahs. So even the world's most aggressive assassination campaign can't wipe that out. In addition, it's mountainous. So the military challenge of ever defeating Iran in any circumstance is almost impossible. That doesn't mean it's going to be a dynamic economic power. That doesn't even mean it's destined to be a long-run oil exporter, but it does mean it's durable. No matter how this goes down, Iran will survive this just fine. In the short run, the question, of course, is in Riyadh. So the Iranians, I would be shocked if we don't find the information relatively soon that they helped shape this operation and help support Hamas. But again, everyone in this area has been a friend. Everyone in this area has been a foe. Hamas is Sunni and Arab, whereas Iran is Shia and Persian, and they think of each other as apostates. They are convenient allies for the moment, and from the Iranian point of view, entirely disposable. So if they can get someone that they think is an apostate to do some horrific things in order to break up the potential alliance between two other apostate groups, for them, there's no downside here. And even odds, they're going to get their way. But even if they don't, they have demonstrated that they have the capacity to manipulate groups 1,000 miles away in ways that no one can detect. From their point of view, there's no downside here. From their point of view, there's nothing but potential successes ahead of them, because if they really did have a role in this, then there's no reason to expect that they can't do it again with another group that maybe is even a little bit more ideologically allied, such as Hezbollah, who are Shia.